Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fluent English with Podcast. I'm Sophie.
And I'm Alan. We're here to help you improve your English vocabulary and have some fun along the way.
That's right. So today we have 7 fantastic words lined up for you folks. Are you ready?
I hope they're ready, Sophie. Here they are: hostile, gloomy, enthusiastic, scorching, mild, spacious, and helpless.
Great words, Alan. Let's dive right in. First up, we have hostile. Now, when something is hostile, it means it's unfriendly or aggressive. Think of a grumpy bear guarding its cave.
Exactly, Sophie. Some synonyms for hostile include antagonistic, unfriendly, and confrontational.
Now, let's break it down with some easy examples. The cat felt hostile towards the dog, or the weather turned hostile, so we had to cancel our picnic.
Here's another one. She gave me a hostile look when I accidentally bumped into her.
Oh, and how about this? The rival teams had a hostile rivalry on the field.
And lastly, he spoke in a hostile tone during the meeting, making everyone uncomfortable.
Now that we've got that covered, let's hear a conversation where the word hostile is used.
Why is your dog barking so loudly?
Oh, sorry about that. He tends to get a little hostile when he sees strangers.
No worries. He just startled me for a moment.
Yeah, he's a friendly dog once he gets to know you.
That was a great example of how hostile can be used in a conversation.
Absolutely, Alan. It's important to understand the meaning of words like hostile so you can express yourself clearly in any situation.
And don't forget, folks, practice makes perfect. Keep using these words in your everyday conversations.
All right, let's move on to our next word. Gloomy. Picture a dark, cloudy day with no sun in sight.
Yes, gloomy means dark, depressing, or dismal. It's like when you wake up to rainy weather and just want to stay in bed all day.
Some synonyms for gloomy include bleak, somber, and dreary.
Let's give some easy examples for our listeners. She felt gloomy on Mondays because it meant going back to work.
The movie had a gloomy ending, but it was still beautiful.
The old house looked gloomy with its boarded-up windows.
After the argument, there was a gloomy silence in the room.
And lastly, he had a gloomy expression on his face after receiving bad news.
Now, let's listen to a conversation where gloomy is used.
Why do you look so gloomy today?
I just found out I failed my exam. It's been a tough week.
I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything I can do to help?
Thanks, but I just need some time to process it all.
That conversation really captured the feeling of gloomy, didn't it?
Absolutely, Alan. It's important to acknowledge our emotions, even the gloomy ones, and reach out for support when we need it.
Well said, Sophie. Now, let's jump right back into our vocabulary journey.
That's right. Our next word is enthusiastic. When someone is enthusiastic, it means they're eager, passionate, and excited about something.
Yes, Sophie, think of a kid on Christmas morning. That's pure enthusiasm right there.
Absolutely. Some synonyms for enthusiastic include eager, excited, and energetic.
Now, let's give our listeners some simple examples to understand enthusiastic. She was enthusiastic about her new job and couldn't wait to start.
The audience gave an enthusiastic applause after the performance.
He's always so enthusiastic about trying new things.
The team was enthusiastic about the upcoming competition.
And lastly, the children were enthusiastic about going to the zoo.
Now, let's listen to a conversation where enthusiastic is used.
Did you see Sarah's presentation? She was so enthusiastic about the topic.
Yeah, she really knows how to get people excited about things.
I wish I could be as enthusiastic as her when I talk about my interests.
It's all about finding what you're passionate about, I guess.
Wow, that conversation was filled with enthusiasm.
Definitely, Alan. Being enthusiastic can make any conversation more engaging and enjoyable.
So true, Sophie. All right, folks, let's keep the energy up as we move on to our next word. Scorching.
Ah, yes, scorching. This word describes extremely hot weather, like when the sun is blazing down and you feel like you're melting.
Exactly, Sophie. It's like stepping into an oven.
Some synonyms for scorching include blazing, sweltering, and boiling.
Now, let's give some easy examples for our listeners. The desert can have scorching temperatures during the day.
We went for a hike, but had to turn back because of the scorching heat.
She got a sunburn from being out in the scorching sun too long.
We had to wait until evening to go outside because of the scorching weather.
And lastly, the metal on the car was too hot to touch due to the scorching sun.
Now, let's listen to a conversation where scorching is used.
Are you going to the beach today?
I was planning to, but it's too scorching outside. I'll wait until it cools down a bit.
Good idea. We don't want to get sunburned.
Yeah, let's wait until the evening when it's not as hot.
That conversation really painted a picture of scorching weather, didn't it?
Absolutely, Alan. It's important to stay safe and hydrated when it's scorching hot outside. All right, folks, we hope you're enjoying today's vocabulary journey so far. Let's continue with our next word. Mild.
Ah, mild. When something is mild, it means it's gentle, not extreme or harsh.
That's right, Alan. It's like a gentle breeze on a warm day.
Some synonyms for mild include gentle, moderate, and soft.
Now, let's give some simple examples for our listeners. She prefers mild spices in her food.
The weather was mild, so we decided to have a picnic in the park.
He has a mild manner and rarely gets angry.
The soap has a mild scent that's perfect for sensitive skin.
And lastly, the doctor said it was just a mild cold and prescribed some rest.
Now, let's listen to a conversation where mild is used.
How spicy did you make the curry?
I made it mild so that everyone can enjoy it without it being too hot.
That's thoughtful of you. I can't handle too much spice.
Mild curry is perfect for you then. Let's dig in.
That conversation highlighted how mild can be used to describe the level of spice in food.
Exactly, Sophie. It's important to consider people's preferences when preparing meals.
All right, let's keep the momentum going with our next word. Spacious.
Spacious describes something that is large, roomy, or has plenty of space.
That's right. Like a big, open field where you can run around freely.
Some synonyms for spacious include roomy, ample, and vast.
Now, let's give some easy examples for our listeners. Their new apartment is spacious and bright.
The conference room was spacious enough to accommodate all the attendees.
She likes spacious closets to organize her clothes.
The park had spacious playgrounds for children to play in.
And lastly, the car trunk is spacious enough to fit all our luggage for the trip.
Now let's listen to a conversation where spacious is used.
How was the hotel room?
It was great. Very spacious with a beautiful view of the city.
That sounds lovely. Did you have enough space for all your belongings?
Oh yeah, plenty of room to spread out and relax.
That conversation showcased how important it is to have a spacious and comfortable place to stay while traveling.
Absolutely, Sophie. A spacious environment can make all the difference in how comfortable you feel.
All right, folks, we're almost done, but we have one more word to cover. Helpless.
Ah, helpless. When someone is helpless, it means they feel unable to do anything to help themselves in a difficult situation.
That's right, Alan. It's like being stranded in the middle of nowhere with no phone or GPS.
Some synonyms for helpless include powerless, vulnerable, and defenseless.
Now, let's give some simple examples for our listeners. The kitten looked helpless until someone rescued it from the tree.
She felt helpless when her car broke down on the highway.
He was stuck in a helpless situation with no way out.
The child felt helpless without their parents during the storm.
And lastly, they were helpless to stop the fire from spreading.
Now let's listen to a conversation where helpless is used.
I heard you got into a car accident. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, but my car is total. I felt so helpless waiting for help to arrive.
That sounds terrifying. I'm glad you're all right.
Thanks. It was definitely a scary experience.
That conversation showed how being in a helpless situation can be frightening and overwhelming.
Absolutely, Sophie. It's important to reach out for help when you feel helpless and not try to handle everything on your own.
All right, folks, that wraps up today's episode of Fluent English with Podcast. We hope you enjoyed learning these new words and found the conversations helpful.
Remember to practice using these words in your own conversations to improve your English skills.
And don't forget to join us next time for more vocabulary fun and maybe a few jokes along the way.
Until then, keep practicing and keep learning. See you next time.